Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, How Build.com Increased Their Customer Conversion Rates. Thanks for joining us. I'm Samantha from Digiday, and I'll be your moderator. Today's webinar is sponsored by Namogoo. Namogoo is pioneering the market of customer hijacking prevention. Created with the mission of preserving a distraction-free online customer journey, Namogoo's disruptive technology identifies and blocks unauthorized ads injected into consumer web sessions that divert customers to competitor offerings, hurting conversion rates and damaging brand equity. We're joined today by Ellie Tamari, Customer Hijacking Prevention Advocate at Namogoo, and Patrick Berry, Senior Director, Brand Technology at Build.com. Ellie is an expert on optimizing digital customer experience. Over the past 20 years, she has helped countless brands significantly move the needle by focusing on their customers' online journey. At Namogoo, Ellie is responsible for making sure digital teams protect their customers from unauthorized ads, leading to customer journey hijacking and stolen revenues. Pat started his career at Build in July of 2013 in a marketing role, specifically to serve as a bridge between the business and the development teams. In his current role, Pat continues to focus on building bridges through shared understanding of what his business does, how it does it, and what they want to do next. A question and answer period will follow the presentation, so please stay with us until the end. Feel free to submit questions at any time via the GoToWebinar platform. Everyone who registered for today's webinar will also receive an email with a recording of the session tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. Here's a brief look at the agenda. Okay, let's get started. Ellie, take it away.
Hi, everyone. So today we're going to talk a bit about customer journey hijacking, what it actually is, the causes for it, and how it impacts your business. And then we'll get to hear from Pat Berry of Build.com, who will actually share with us their experience learning about customer journey hijacking and then what they did to prevent it. So let's think a little bit about the customer journey and really what it means for retailers, for online e-commerce, lead gen, subscription brands, etc. All of us, all of you, probably spend significant amount of revenue on getting traffic to your site. Really, that's where it all starts. You buy traffic, there's SEO campaigns, pay-per-click campaigns, not to mention spending millions and millions on building an optimal brand image. And the idea is to get visitors to your site and then have them go through an optimal customer experience that also requires millions in investments, right? We're talking about designing the experience, looking at every call to action element. Some of you may watch hundreds and thousands of hours of session playback to understand where people may have run into issues. We're talking about A/B testing, MarTech investments, and then I like to call them the Asians, right? Optimization, personalization, segmentation, and quite a few other Asians, of course. And the end result that everybody wants is having all this traffic, as much of it, to convert through this wonderful customer experience, adding products to carts, filling out forms, and submitting in order to drive online revenue. And after all these investments are made, what we find is as most brands think that the customer experience that they created, that wonderful website that is so easy to use, so user-friendly, is the one that their shoppers are actually going to see. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. In more cases than not, actually in 15 to 25% of user sessions, what users are actually seeing is third-party ads injected onto the website. The experience, of course, is tarnished by this, and most of the time we find these days that this is coming through affiliate networks, affiliate marketers that are driven financially to find any way that they can to essentially hijack your traffic, steal it from your site, and take it to your competitors that are paying to get this traffic over to them. So in our course of analyzing around 3 billion page views on a weekly basis, our data shows that it is 15 to 25% of all web sessions that get these injections. And in 40 to 70% of these cases, The ads actually feature competing products, promotions. These scripts are very, very sophisticated to look at what people are browsing, what they're looking for. And then if it's something that's relevant that an affiliate can monetize, they'll be presenting a competitive product to that. Now, during the holiday periods, we've seen infection rates jump up to over 30% in many cases. So what is the impact of customer journey hijacking? Specifically to e-commerce, we see that over 58% of the time, consumers are likely to click on product ads. We need to think about the fact that people that get presented with these ads get them for a reason. They may have been seeking out promotions. They may have these infections for a reason. So when they see related products that show a lower price, they're very likely to follow it. In a survey that we did recently, which actually can be found through the Namogoo website, you can also get additional information on the behavior of this infected population, with over 77% stating that when they encounter these banners or pop-ups, it negatively affects their customer experience. And that kind of makes sense. Everybody seems to have distraction these days. We're all on our phones. We're all used to, every time an email comes on or a pop-up, to just look at it immediately and follow it. The effect on conversion are very, very large. We're talking anywhere from 2 to 5% of revenue being lost in the process of these ads being presented. And of course, a lot of the times the ads that we see are not only related products, but there are cases where there's salacious, unsavory, inappropriate ads that people are seeing, fake surveys, phishing attacks, etc. So one of the questions we get very often is, well, how does this happen? You're talking about huge numbers, Ali. You're saying 20, 25%. That's crazy. How does this even happen? So I mentioned in passing that a lot of this is coming from really a $7 billion industry of affiliate marketing. This industry is growing every year by what we talked about in the beginning. In order to create an optimal journey, in order to get people to the site, brands will invest whatever dollars they can in order to get them there. And affiliate marketing is one of the channels that has been growing in an incredible rate. So yes, we're talking now at a $7 billion industry that needs to monetize and get people to click on ads. One of the ways that they found to do that, and the easiest way, is through offering free Wi-Fi. So I was recently on a JetBlue flight, and I'm sure for any of you that have flown JetBlue or really any other similar airline, they charge money for everything. I ended up paying $30 for a seat, $30 to bring a suitcase. I think it was another $30 to go through a quick line. But when I got on the flight, I was offered free Wi-Fi. And as you all might know, if it's free, most likely we're the product. So sifting through the terms and conditions, of course, it said that I hereby agree to be presented with ads from partners of the airline. So none of this is necessarily illegal. I wouldn't say none, but most of it is not illegal, not exactly ethical. But if we join Wi-Fi and we agree in the terms and conditions to be presented with third-party ads, once we've done that, a file will be installed on the browser, which will then present ads whenever I'm browsing for something that that affiliate network that offered that Wi-Fi device is monetizing on. Other ways that people get infected would be browser extensions. You think you're downloading an extension that is legitimate and, I don't know, might allow you to watch YouTube videos, when in reality, that extension itself also serves up ads and monetizes that way. And for those of you who haven't really been reading up on this phenomena too carefully, we've actually seen recent news that T-Mobile, and I think Verizon as well, actually partnered with affiliate networks to present these ads to their users. So it's a lot of different ways. And as I mentioned, it is not necessarily illegal, which is probably why it doesn't make more news, but it is definitely an unethical practice that we're not aware of. And I do apologize if I ruined free Wi-Fi for you guys pretty much from now on. So let's think about traffic, right? So we talked about affiliate networks. We talked about ad networks, the ads are injected directly into the HTML. So we're not talking about a situation where even if a shopper installs an ad blocker or any attempt that they might be making to stop this, the ads, the scripts that we're getting presented are exactly that. They're injected into the HTML that's populating on the shopper's site. So now that these ads are presented to your shoppers, it's on the shopper's browser. So they get to see these ads no matter which site they go to. So if you think about it, I might go to Saks Fifth Avenue website and see an ad for Bloomingdale's. If I click on that, I'll go back to Bloomingdale's. I might see a, Saks ad there, and then go right back. The traffic will be flowing from you to your competition and from the competition to you. And, I had customers that I spoke with and said, you know what? Why should we care? It's a zero-sum game. If it's on average 20% of traffic, so 20% of my traffic is going to my competition, 20% from them is coming to me. Yes, we might have some abandonment due to salacious ads or people just thinking that a site is hacked. But in essence, people are just moving from site to site. It's the nature of the game. Why should we worry about it? The interesting thing is that this zero-sum game or this equation gets broken as soon as a brand can stop the bleeding of their digital investment from happening. So using a solution that allows you to block these ads from populating on your shoppers' sites essentially gives you an advantage over your competition. You can continue paying affiliates and buying traffic and bringing it to your site, but any of the activity that was happening on your site once you block these injections really gives you an advantage because you're not going to be losing any of your traffic to your competition. And the question again that we get is, well, where is this happening? Is it across all verticals? Is it across all operating systems, all browsers? Yes, we're talking about a very sophisticated industry. It's not a couple guys sitting in some garage. A $7 billion industry that developed very complex scripts. They morph every few minutes. They follow the traffic. They follow its source. So we do see, for example, in B2B, for B2B customers, we'll see infections happening more during the week, 9 to 5, where with apparel, footwear, home brands, where a lot of the shopping happens on the weekend, we'll see them happening more on the weekends. It also will change during the hours of the day. And no, it's not unique to one browser or one operating system. It actually happens across all of them, desktop, mobile, and really will follow where your traffic sources are from. So what happens when you block customer journey hijacking? A lot of really good stuff, right? We're talking about creating a distraction-free experience when your shoppers are on your site versus other sites. When you stop this from happening, for a change, they'll have a clean experience. There's not going to be any pop-ups, anything distracting them from going through the site, from viewing it. We see a lot more page views for shoppers that have a clean experience. Of course, abandonment goes down. There's no friction. The KPIs, we see conversion rates go up. Error pages drop to a very small amount because a lot of the time these scripts that are injected actually break your funnel. They create a lot of error pages. So once you clean that up, people can check out if they want to. And of course, one of the most important things to a lot of the companies that we work with is preserving their brand equity, especially if you think about fake surveys, salacious ads, as you're spending all this money to create the feeling that your brand can be trusted, that your site works properly, is something that your shoppers will be able to get now rather than think that it might be hacked or something might have happened. So one of the most fascinating thing that we've noticed as we were going through this process is not only the amazing effect that cleaning up the customer experience has on your shoppers, it's also the fact that once you clean up the experience, the infected population tends to convert 2 to 3 times more than the non-infected. And what I usually hear when I say this is, wait, what? Why? Why would shoppers that have infections on their browsers convert more than those that don't? And it goes back to what I mentioned before. People get infected for a reason. They might be living digitally. These shoppers will go and look for browser extensions that offers coupons. So it could be your Honey and Ebates and Amazon that they look for, but there's others that are not legitimate like those. Because they spend so much time online, they are more likely to join every free Wi-Fi device offered to them. And infected users, because they live digitally, they also tend to convert more. So once the experience is cleaned up, they will stay and convert. So what we do offer is in real time to update customers as to who's coming from an infected browser versus who's not. And this really allows to take it much further, because if your brand is sophisticated enough to offer a customized experience or define this group of shoppers, the infected population, as a specific segment in your analytics, then of course you can leverage this knowledge. You've now identified your best shopping segment. What can we do to make the experience match what they're looking for? So it could be cart recovery emails, it could be offering them specific promotions, and of course, as I said, if you really want to offer also a real-time personalized experience for their specific shopping behavior, that's something that you can do. So let's jump to our first poll question for the day. Have any of you heard about customer journey hijacking before? We'd love to get your answers. So go ahead and fill it out. And I guess we can move on to Pat. So Pat Berry, Senior Director, Brand Technology for Bill.com. Pat will share with you his specific experience, how he learned about customer journey hijacking, and what they did about this.
Yeah, hi. How's everyone doing? I know you can't reply. Sorry about that. Just a quick little bit about Bill.com. We were actually established in the year 2000 as FaucetDirect.com. We were then acquired by Ferguson PLC in 2007. And then in 2010, we were renamed to Bill.com to basically show that we were more than just faucet, more than just lights. We had really expanded to be all of home improvement. So we wanted to put everything under one big umbrella. Currently, we offer over 1 million home improvement products from over 500 different vendors. And we're one of the largest pure play online home improvement experiences. So the problem, we started at the beginning. So it was, we want to talk about identifying that, identifying how is it impacting our users' experience, and the journey that we took specifically at Build to solve this problem, and the impacts that we saw on performance. So here's a simulated screenshot, and that's Build.com with a bunch of not Build.com ads on it. So again, start at the beginning. How did we understand that something wasn't right? And it really started with our front-end engineers diving into JavaScript errors on the front end. We were focusing on performance, and we were just seeing an abnormally high number of errors, and we weren't comfortable with that. And the front-end team was eventually able to narrow down a large number of those errors to various toolbars and browser add-ons, and they were just things that we didn't feel we had any control over. That is, until we looked deeper and identified Namogoo as a potential fix for the problem. And our first meeting with them was an eye-opener, because they showed us things like this. And at that point, we were finally seeing our site as a customer, and it wasn't the experience we wanted them to have. So that, in a nutshell, was our problem. Our investment in user experience and marketing was leaking money. So how much money were we leaking was the next big question to answer. So we decided to take Namogoo for a spin. And what does that really mean? We wanted a testable pilot with split traffic, basically an A/B test, so that we can measure the impact and try and answer the question we just asked. How much user experience and marketing investments were leaking via customer journey hijacking? So there's a flexible deployment process, and step one was to install the Namogoo tag on the website. It's a small snippet of JavaScript. Any company with a tag management solution could deploy this in probably less than 5 minutes. We have a tag management solution, and this is where we did it. Step two for us was to split the traffic. So in our case, we happen to be using SiteSpec for A/B testing. And so, but even after that, I know you're thinking, well, so you said just one line of JavaScript. What kind of, quote, integration is there? Because, if you're going to go to your IT department and ask for something, they're always going to go like, well, that sounds like it's going to be complicated, and we should really look at that. And the answer is there really isn't any integration. It's just deploying the JavaScript to your site, and then the A/B test is handled by whatever solution you're using. So that JavaScript is what is doing all the hard work once the page is loaded on the end user's browser. And at that point, it starts blocking unauthorized content that is identified by Namogoo. And we were doing that at a 50-50 traffic split. So then the question is, once you get the test results, how bad is it? And is it really that bad? Yes. Yes, it is. We were seeing a 28% average infection rate. And that to us was just kind of disturbing. We felt that we were pretty tech savvy, and that was probably our blind spot. And, we weren't out installing all of these things on our browsers, and we were on protected computers that prevent installing these kinds of add-ons, and we were basically in our own little tech bubble. And then once you see what's going on outside of that bubble, you see how many people were infected, and the impact it was having on our conversion rate, the impact of blocking the infections, the clean population just saw a massive, massive impact. The numbers that came in, people had to triple check because they thought something might have been off with the test. Because if you've had any experience with A/B testing, you know that you very, very rarely run into anything that really moves the needle that much. And so we started this in August of 2017 with a POV. And again, that was a 50-50 traffic split. Some of the other numbers that were interesting standouts is that mobile was a huge, huge percentage of the infections. And, as Ellie said, with, a lot of these free Wi-Fi networks, well, all of your mobile devices love to join these free Wi-Fi networks. So that kind of lines up. So what were the results? When I said, massive impact, let's talk about a 2% increase in conversion rate. And again, I just can't stress enough how incredibly rare it is to find anything that will move the conversion needle this much. And needless to say, we're very excited about the results. I doubt anybody envisions the effect this phenomenon, the customer hijacking, has on their bottom line until they just see it in black and white numbers right in front of you on a spreadsheet, because that's exactly where I was before this test. So some other key areas that we saw is that engagement went up and our abandonment rates went down. This makes sense because if there's not a bunch of junk on your page, people might actually enjoy it more. Our error pages reduced substantially because these scripts, they don't care about your website. They care about displaying their ad. So they're going to do whatever they want to do. And if it happens to stomp on the functionality of your site, well, too bad. We even had one screenshot that I saw from the Namogoo dashboard where our customer feedback button was covered by an ad. So if we hadn't blocked the infection, there would have been no way for the customer to know that they could have given us feedback saying like, hey, your site looks weird, or it's busted, or it's not working for me. So that was a fun little anecdote. And again, it really does go towards protecting your brand identity, because do you really want your website to look like it's been, sprayed with graffiti? And the customer experience was improved to the point where our overall site conversion, again, went up just over 2%. So full deployment. So we got the numbers. We were very excited about the numbers. We triple checked the numbers, and we decided to go to full deployment with 100% of the traffic getting cleaned. But there's a bit of a catch with going to 100%, and that is we would forget where we were without Namogoo. So for a short time, we lost the ability to compare the two customer experiences, and we weren't able to continually measure the value of the solution. So at the recommendation of our customer success manager, we moved back to a 97.3 traffic split. And that's what we have in place today. And that's how we review the performance quarterly so that we can ensure it's the gift that keeps on giving. So again, we went from just, oh my God, this is amazing, turn it on, turn it to 11 or 100%, whichever you prefer. But then it's like, okay, we can't measure against the blocked and just the monitored group. So we've dialed that back, and we continue to monitor that. So the business results. Once again, it's just to highlight that this solution is the gift that keeps on giving. We continue to see what I consider staggering infection rates. They do swing, as Ellie mentioned, from cycle to cycle, from season to season. So it's an opportunistic infection rate. So, but it also says that an infected personal computer won't guarantee that someone sees a compromised experience because of how the ad inventory is bought and sold. But we also see a large infection rate because we are targeted by our competitors, which are many, and some are quite large, and you may have even heard of one or two of them. But again, we continue to see at least a 28% infection rate, and it swings a little bit, and it will go up. But we have continued to see a 20%, well, it's almost 21% conversion rate uplift. So when you compare the conversion rate before to what we have now, it has absolutely gone up. And we just wanted to give a peek on some of the dashboard insights. And this is information that we can pull directly out of the customer hijacking prevention dashboard. And we have almost real-time and ongoing insights about our infected population. So where are the infections happening? Right now, we were getting over a quarter on mobile, add in another 6% for tablet, and you basically got, 1/3 on quote mobile devices, with 66% from desktop. We see heavy use on desktop, even though our mobile traffic is growing. The home improvement industry is pretty complicated, and people, they tend to do a little bit of research on their mobile device, but then when it really comes down to, buying, we see that people go to their desktop still. So that's why we still have a huge amount of desktop traffic. You can also see the user flows where in the infected population that do get cleaned, we get more into checkout and more into conversion. We can see that the bounce rate goes down once we clean that infected population, which is, we said that was going to happen, and then we can come in here and we can see that is indeed what is happening. we also want to look at where the injections are happening on our site, because they don't happen equally across the site. So we're being targeted in cart checkout. So you're like, oh, well, it's, that's obvious. Why wouldn't you want to hijack when someone is ready to go? But it is really the most valuable place, because you do know what they have in their cart, what they're wanting, and you have a better ability to present them, if you're trying to hijack the customer, to present them with alternatives. We also had a large number of infection targets on our Black Friday promotional pages back when Black Friday was going on. But then you see a pretty big drop off just because everything is so spread out at that point. So it'll be across product pages, it'll be across search pages, even on the login. We've had our chandeliers and cabinet hardware targeted pretty heavily. So we do like to keep an eye on that, just to, have some good situational awareness on what's going on. So some general advice that I would have if you happen to run an e-commerce site: don't assume you know what your customers are seeing. That's how we got to where we are today. It required a lot of engineers digging in on performance to understand that, like, all the errors that we were seeing were actually coming from things that we weren't doing. We always like to assume that, we're the ones that cause the errors, but in this situation, that just wasn't true. So it's good to know exactly what your customers are seeing, not from a little protected tech bubble with enterprise level protection on all your personal computers and VPNs and all of that. You got to get out there in the wild. You want to protect your marketing investment. You're paying a lot of money for this highly targeted traffic, and you don't want them to come in to a site and then immediately bounce or get a bad experience, because your customer experience is your advantage. I mean, that's why you make a website. It's not just to show people things, it's to give them the value that they need in order to make that purchase. And that can be information, functionality, anything that you put into your customer experience. It's probably on par with protecting your marketing investments, because one part is getting the traffic to the site, the other part is making sure the people that land there are having a good experience. And now, poll number 2.
So for poll number 2, if you're aware that an average of 20% of your traffic is infected, would that be something that you would prioritize to take care of? So would like to hear your feedback on that. So Pat, thank you for that. That was great. It was really interesting.
Yeah, no problem.
You guys went through. Wow, that's
nailed it.
Yeah, I think you did. So it's obviously something that a lot of brands are very interested in solving. And of course, if you think about what Pat shared is just deploying a tag, it's set and forget. You don't have to worry about it too much, and then get that kind of a conversion increase is something that a lot of our customers find absolutely easy and a really quick result to get. So also wanted to mention that we saw the poll before, and yes, it was surprising for us to see how many people were actually aware of customer journey hijacking. This is a phenomena that very often when we mention it to people, they said, well, it's not something I heard about before. It's not something I really noticed. But then when you say, well, wait a minute, you've never gotten that Amazon fake Amazon survey that offers you a $5 gift card. Oh yeah, I've seen these, and you've never seen to, you know, update your flash. Yeah, I've seen that. So we all tend to see these ads and we don't really think about them as customer journey hijacking. But yeah, if you click on them, and in many cases, unfortunately, now they don't even let you cross them, close them out. There's just an okay, and it takes you to another site, whether you want to or not. So it's funny how many people never really thought about it or considered it as a problem. I think, Pat, you said for you guys it was something that you were aware of, but we do have a lot of cases where we're just like, we never thought about it, and it does actually happen. So thank you, everybody, for participating. And now moving on to the questions. So what kind of questions did we get today?
Okay, so thank you, Ellie and Pat, for all your great insights. And before we move on, just a quick reminder for all of our attendees, the full recording of the webinar will be made available to you in a follow-up email tomorrow. So let's move on to the Q&A portion. We have one right here, and it says, does this have any effect on site performance?
I'll go ahead and take that one, Ellie. Since this is how Bill got here. It actually, I know a lot of front end web developers will say, hey, like, you know, you got to stop putting all these pixels on the site. It's slowing everything down. But when you actually get to the performance of the page at the customer side, when you start blocking all these injections, that's more important than the small amount of JavaScript that will actually load from Namogoo on the customer's browser. So it's, again, like, those things will have experience impact, but they also have performance impact, because you never know what this injected JavaScript will do on your site to slow things down, to make scrolling worse, to, you know, just to wreck your experience. So the JavaScript portion is minimal, but it is more than outweighed by the fact that you are improving performance by not having injected JavaScript load on your site.
Thank you, Pat.
Great. So we have another one asking, what happens when browser extensions people choose to install? Will they be affected?
So I'll address this one. If shoppers choose to install legitimate browser extensions such as Honey and eBay or Amazon, Namogoo will not block those. Those are things that people wanted to have run on their machines. It is possible, though. We do have some customers who have asked us to block legitimate extensions, and that is really up to you. If you don't want the Amazon toolbar running while people are on your site, our only recommendation would be to just make note as far as your site terms and conditions, and mention to your shoppers that Honey might not work or Amazon toolbar might not work while they're on your site. But yes, it is kind of the cherry on top. It is something that you can ask us to block in addition to the unauthorized injections.
Another question asks, how do you actually know what to block?
So because you can think of Namogoo as a remotely installed ad blocker, and it is getting installed by brands on their own servers. So once the tag is installed on your end, and a shopper comes to your site for the first time, a small snippet of code is downloaded into their browser. And that code really acts as a police officer. It knows what's coming. We know what's coming from you, what you're sending to the shopper's browsers, what third-party services you're sending as well. So we can immediately identify anything that's coming from a third-party source that's not yours. And once we see any script that's getting injected, then we can analyze it and decide if it's malicious, if it's something that's not, that shouldn't be running, or if it's something that's okay. So there's hundreds of algorithms that we run through that check what this script is actually doing. So the first step, of course, to check is to see if we've seen this script before run on any of our other customers' shoppers' browsers. And since we do scan about 3 billion sessions, page views a week, we know pretty much 99% of all scripts that might be injected anywhere. And we can automatically block for them. For anything that might not be anything we've seen before, these algorithms will run through additional checks and see what this script is trying to do. Is it pulling people off the site? Is it overlaying the page? Is it rerouting a call to action element? And if we deem it malicious, it is immediately blocked. And if not, if we're not 100% sure, since we have a zero false positive policy, in those rare cases, we may opt to let an ad run and then have a data team analyze it further to see if it was legitimate or not. And then it will be blocked if it's not authorized, and the next time that shopper will come to the site.
What if customers have already installed ad blockers?
So we mentioned this before. This is not injected ads that we're talking about. Ones that get injected into the HTML are not ones that ad blockers can stop. The only way for shoppers to actually prevent these ads from getting injected after a file was already installed on their browser might be to just completely remove any of the browser files that are installed on their machines and reinstall their browsers, or reset their machines to factory setting and reinstall them. It's definitely not something that most shoppers can fix on their own. It's just, as we mentioned, the technology is very sophisticated. The scripts morph constantly. An ad blocker won't work here.
So someone wants to know if they need their IT department to install this for them.
I'll grab this one, Ellie. Yeah. It depends. It depends on who has control over your tag management solution. You may have something like Google Tag Manager. You may have something like Adobe's Dynamic Tag Manager solution. It depends on who has access to that. But do you have to have developers to do things to the website to install Namogoo? Probably not, especially if you have a tag manager solution. So you should absolutely look for who has access to that system. That is who you really need to talk to about getting Namogoo installed.
Cool. And looks like we have another question that asks, how come infected shoppers convert more?
So I covered this a bit before. One of my customers uses a term that I absolutely love. They call them digitally promiscuous. If you picked up something along the way, it might be because you live online. It might be because you are looking constantly for online deals. You are looking to add anything you can to your browser. You will join every free Wi-Fi offered. And when you live that openly, I think in a digital world where there's so many players who are trying to take advantage of really our very limited attention and our how easily we're distracted to look at other offers or options. And if I have that kind of a personality, if somebody who's constantly seeking promotions, then yes, I'll be more likely to see them. So it is very interesting. We are working with several partners that look at behavioral analytics. And we're actually in the process of doing a big paper on all the behavioral models that we see in different shoppers, especially the infected population. But the results are what they are. They do convert 2 to 3 times higher than the non-infected. And you can leverage them even further. So if your brand is focused on customer segmentation, if you have these different segments set up in Adobe, in GA, whatever analytics software you're using, I do urge our customers to take this a lot further and use other solutions that they have at hand to learn even more about what makes that particular segment of their shoppers so unique and so prone to buying more than anybody else.
Yeah, and just to follow on a little bit with that, Ellie, just to kind of take it back to when you mentioned that this is a $7 billion a year industry, this kind of like affiliate ad marketing, customer hijacking. They are putting tremendous resources into this, which means that we have to put tremendous resources in on the other side to help combat that and understand what these behaviors are and how do you counter it. And that's why it's great that for Build, we don't have to build that solution. We don't have to worry about playing whack-a-mole. We don't have to worry about continually updating this system where we can get the benefits of kind of like that wider learning that Namogoo can do across the internet and benefit from those deep down behavioral analyses.
Okay, great. So before we wrap up, does anyone have any other insights that they'd like to share?
I actually just want to thank Pat for coming on and sharing his experience. It's wonderful to have customers that are really part of the Namogoo family of brands and just stay with us for so many years and are happy to talk on our behalf. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. It was my pleasure. It's like I said, it's so rare that you run across something that really has, the impact that is promised.
And I would just like to offer to everybody on this call today, if you are interested in having an analysis of your own site and get more information about which brands are injecting ads into your site through affiliate marketers or other methods, how much this affects your conversion rates, how much it disrupts your customer experience, and really where you're most affected by it. I would urge you to just visit scan.namogoo.com. Feel free to put in your information and we'll be happy to share with you a free site analysis.
Okay, great. So I think that's all the time we have for today. But thanks again to Ellie and Pat, and of course to our partner Namogoo. And thank you to all those who joined us today, and we hope you learned something. So just keep an eye on your inboxes tomorrow for a link to the recording, and you can watch that on demand. Thank you again, and please enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.